So last class, we were talking about being okay, finding that place where we're okay with whatever's taking place. And I hope you thought about it this week. Maybe try to work with it this week. In this past week. We work with different ideas at different times. And I think this is an interesting, a really interesting idea to work with. In the meditation that we've been doing, we've been developing calm with the help of the breath. We've been developing calm in the body. We develop calm in the mind. Being okay with whatever's coming up and being okay in the present moment is pointing to the idea or the actuality, if you will, of being very present actually with what's taking place. Because how can you be okay with what's taking place if you're not there? So the first part is to arrive, is to be there. And then the second part, obviously, is to, or perhaps not obviously, is to catch how we're reacting to the situation, how we're responding to the situation, how the moment is making us feel. What's the mental state? I've talked about that a lot. In the 4 foundations of mindfulness, it's an important one. In the Anapanasati Sutta, it's an important one. What's the mind doing? What's the texture of the mind in this moment, in that moment? And it may be smooth and easy and easeful and flowing, and it may not. If it's smooth and easy and flowing, if you're having a good moment, a good morning, a good day, it's not so hard to be with. But it's also, it's just like in our formal practice, it's also, it's dangerous in that it can help us fall asleep, not pay attention to what's taking place. In some ways, our suffering is a better teacher. If we're not okay, then we have to investigate why we're not okay. And we have to work with that, right? Why am I so upset? Why did I get triggered in this situation? Why am I feeling the way I've been feeling this morning or this week or this month? So when we're not okay, then it really stimulates us, hopefully, to investigate the nature of our suffering, the nature of us not being okay. You can't pretend to be okay. Now, when we're just okay, when the seas are smooth, when the sailing is smooth, it's really good to recognize that too. And to explore that space, explore that experience of okayness. Mind that experience of okayness. What is that? What is that? It's the absence of, if we look, it's the absence of craving, right? We're not wanting something else. It's the absence of anger, of upsetness. So when we are feeling okay, what constitutes that experience? And what's led to that experience? And what's the content of that experience in that moment? Maybe it's just a feeling, a mental state. Or maybe it's something deeper than that. So we explore the moments of okayness, and we explore the moments when we're not okay equally. When we're not okay, what's taking place? And what made us go from one to the other? And this is looking at our suffering, right? This is looking at our suffering. This is looking at what gets in the way and what trips us up. But it's also looking at our okayness, looking at what's right within our experience, if you will. In the Mahayana tradition, they say that for a starter, we have faith in Buddha nature, that the essential aspect of our being is Buddha nature, is enlightenment, whatever that might be, whatever that might mean. What do you think about that? What's your experience with that? When the mind is quiet, when we move towards quietness, when we move towards stillness, when we move towards that which doesn't have content. Maybe that's an expression of Buddha nature. It's certainly an expression of profound peace and calm. And how is it that that appears? Who's making it appear? Or is it merely the absence of something else? Interesting questions. And that's what the practice is. It's not being told about the way things are. It's not being told what your experience is, but it's really looking at your experience. Again and again and again, being with your experience. And seeing what your experience shows you about the nature of your experience, the nature of your appearance. You're not okay. Your feathers are ruffled. Is there a cause? What's the cause? What's the remedy? What is it that makes you unruffled. And what about those things that easily you forget about? Easily you let go of. And those other things where it's much harder to let go. So we identify these experiences. We identify these experiences and we internalize them. We internalize them in that they're not out there. They're not out there. Somebody cuts you off in traffic and you're upset. It's not out there. It's the internal experience. So we investigate this internal experience. We be with it, we stay with it. And one of the interesting ways to work with it is to look at this sense of okayness, this sense within ourselves where there's peace and tranquility. We develop through our practice, we develop a foundation that helps us be more present. But there's still the world, there's still the mind, there's still mental states. There's still all of this stuff coming up, no matter how hard we try. There's still the stuff that keeps coming up, coming around the corner. 1 minute we're good, 1 minute we're not. 1 minute we're okay, 1 minute we're not. So this power of observation, this power of knowing, opens up these experiences and begins to show us things, begins to point the way for us. And in general, we certainly know we're okay when we don't identify with, when we don't grasp onto an experience. So we know that, but it's not so easy to do. We develop discernment. We know what leads us down the garden path. We know what leads us to trouble. We know what leads us to more wholesome states. We develop that awareness, right? But still, stuff is going to come up. The world is going to come in our front door and mess with our heads. So we investigate our experience. And it's really important to develop the capacity to stay with the practice throughout the day. Of course, you're going to get caught up. But to come back to that base, where we're watching our experience. We're watching our experience. And sometimes it gets really tedious and boring. And sometimes it feels like we're chasing our tail, and sometimes it feels like we're getting nowhere at all. But those are all thoughts, mental states, ideas. So we come back to watching our experience. I've been talking about faith and confidence. And that's an essential part of this process because it gives us the strength to come back again and again. And we begin to see this place of okayness, of being all right with what's taking place. Or that part of us that within us is really not touched by what's taking place. But that can't just be an idea. When we're in that state of okayness, that's the time to explore that. That's the time to explore that. That's why we like to do deeper meditation. That's why we like to do retreats. That's why we like to develop our samadhi. So we can get into those places of relative stillness and quietness and really explore that space. And in some ways, the exploration is really just opening up to it. Is really just opening up to it. No past, no future, just what's taking place in a moment. What is that experience? And when you're not okay, and when we're caught in reaction, where is that experience? So this is how we proceed. This is how we proceed. And we develop calm in the body with the breath. We develop calm in the mind with the breath. And attention, of course. And from the development of that, that gives us the strength to move forward with everything else. And what about those moments in the day? Whatever you're doing, where you're relatively quiet, you're present, and you feel good. Explore that. Really mine that experience. And when we explore it, we also explore it in our bodies. How does it feel in the body? Is it an energetic experience? You look out, it's a nice sunny day. The sky is blue. You feel happy. How does that feel in the body? What's that experience? How does that feel in the mind? Can you bring that experience into your body? Or maybe it's just already there. But that feeling when you look out and there's spaciousness and warmth and sunshine, or just joy as you look around. Go into that experience. Breathe into that experience. Let that experience grow within us. We find those moments. Just like when we're doing the sitting practice and our mind is distracted, and then we catch the breath, and then our mind is distracted, we catch the breath, our mind is distracted, we catch the breath. And then at some point, for a period of time, we're able to apply relatively sustained attention to the object of meditation, to the breath, or to sensations in the body. And we explore that, we deepen that, right? Sustained attention, sustained thought, concentration factors. But what about when you're sitting on the couch and you're just feeling good? How's that different? Or you're going for a walk outside. And when you're feeling that, is it dependent on the conditions? Or are you just in a place where you're allowing that to be? Is it really dependent on conditions? Really ask that question. And work with it. So we're bringing our attention, we're bringing our focus, we're bringing our investigation into all aspects of our life as we move through the day. And at times it's difficult, and at times it's not difficult. We see how we begin to develop the wisdom about why sometimes we make things so difficult on ourselves. We see what we're doing, we see what we're investing in it. But we're also just watching. And we're keeping our eye on that okayness. We're keeping our eye on the Buddha nature. And then when we really train, and the word is train, when we really train in that, then we are able to move through our days much more skillfully. And we are truly able to use our days, our life as path, as our practice. Somebody said to Ajahn Chah once, I don't have time to practice. I'm too busy. And he said, do you have time to breathe? And they said, yes. And he said, well, you have time to practice.